Hello everyone, welcome back to another Friday and another casual champion review. It's time for Big Morty in the jungle because Riot decided that that was an okay thing to do, and we're also going to be doing something really stupid. We're going to be playing full AP Big Morty today. I know normally he's AP, but we're going to go full glass cannon Mordekaiser because that just sounds like fun to me today. I think it's really because I've played Mordekaiser so much, I kind of know the ins and outs of the normal version all the time. I kind of want to just do something a bit silly. You know what else is silly? Fan art section. I am kind of in... How is this so much? I had to make 4 lines. There was that much more art. Jesus Christ, you got... It's so good though. Oh, it's wonderful, Big Morty. Thank you both so much. I do have to make a note. Next week, I am not going to be here from Wednesday to Friday, so I have to get everything ready for the Morgana casual review by Tuesday. So if you send in fan art stuff and it's any later than Tuesday, I won't be able to include it. So if you want to get it in, yeah, by Tuesday. You don't have it's a completely optional thing though. Thank you both so much. I love him so much. Thank you so much. All right, so let's begin with Mr. Sun Uzal, as he was once known. Mordekaiser has been around since before Noxus was even founded, and his culture was built on a faith that if you accomplished a lot in your life, then in death you would have a prosperous afterlife. And Mordekaiser was an incredibly vain, maniacal tyrant leader and built this mighty empire by killing anyone who opposed him, conquering every other nation, tribe, everything, hoping, well, not even hoping, he was doubtless that once he finally did die, he had done enough in his mortal life that he would be granted a seat at the table of the gods in the glorious Hall of Bones for all eternity in his afterlife. The thing is, eventually he finally did die, and he found that there was no grand Hall of Bones, no glorious reward, no seat at the table with the gods. The afterlife was nothing but a gray wasteland filled with fog and wandering lost souls who have lost all sense of themselves. And if you ever seen Coco, whenever the people in the mortal world stop remembering them, they fade away. I don't know if that's how these souls here work, but eventually they do fade away with time. And Mordekaiser, or Mordekaiser, this facility is not up to my quality standards. I did not ask for this. I was supposed to have a glorious afterlife, and there's nothing here. This will not stand. Because surely he had accomplished plenty enough, and surely this isn't all there is to the afterlife. No, this can't be. So by sheer force of will, he refused to accept this and kept his soul from fading. And over time, he learned the language of the dead, the Aknun, and he used this knowledge to help project his voice across this death realm, but also start spreading his whispers into the mortal realm. And eventually, these whispers actually did reach the mortal realm. A cult of sorcerers were convinced that they could bring Sanuzal back to life and use him as a tool to help conquer the world. Dogfight. Dog win as long as you have giant metal man. So these sorcerers use their necromantic magic to eventually bring Mordekaiser back from the realm of the dead, but not as a flesh body. Instead, his soul was melded with this metal armor. He became literally a metal husk powered by his old soul power, and Mordekaiser's like, oh, this is great. Now I'm even stronger than ever before. I don't have the weaknesses of mortal flesh like hunger or getting tired, and also now I have necromantic powers. Thank you, sorcerers. And the sorcerers say, oh, thank you, Sun Uzal. This is awesome. Why don't you help us? And he's, no, I want to help myself, you idiots. And so they frantically try to send him back, like, oh shoot, no, Sun Uzal, go back to whence you came, Sun Uzal. But it doesn't work anymore because he doesn't go by Sun Uzal anymore. He got renamed in the Death Realm with the Aknun language and now goes by Mordekaiser. Which that would probably help for all those movies and shows and books of demonic rituals of just trying to know the demon's name to be able to cast them out. Like if the demon finds out that you found out their name, just legally change it, idiot. Now they can't do anything. And so now Mordekaiser began his second conquest, armed with these new necromantic abilities, forging his big mace Nightfall and raising the Immortal Bastion at the heart of his new empire. But you guys know the Immortal Bastion's that big old building in Noxus, because again, he technically was the founder of Noxus in a way. Doggy, don't you take my crab. You took my only crab! So Mordekaiser was back in full force, stronger than ever, conquering every nation he could, but it wasn't enough. Mordekaiser now had the knowledge that there were other realms beyond the mortal realm, and and the Death Realm, that he could shape these to his will. He didn't want to just rule the physical realm, he wanted every realm, and he had to be stopped. This couldn't happen, and so thanks to an alliance of the Noxie tribes, who were the people that existed before Noxus, as well as a betrayal by one of his most trusted allies, that would be LeBlanc, they managed to remove the anchor that bound the armor to his soul, and so sent his soul back into the Death Realm, leaving the husk of the armor in the heart of the Immortal Bastion. And this seems a little weird. He was kind of shockingly defeated quite easily, but little did everyone know this was entirely part of Mordekaiser's plan. He'd been sent back to the Death Realm, yes, but all those souls he had slain in his second conquest were waiting for him there. Simon! Give me your stats, Simon. You were part of Noxus, I think. You would help me. All those souls he had slain in his second conquest were waiting for him in the Death Realm. Now they were trapped there, perverted by his new necromantic abilities. They were unable to fade and bound to his will. Basically, all those millions and millions of people he had killed, he had turned them into his loyal army. Even the weakest souls he had acquired were still of use to him because he could use them as building blocks. He literally turned them into building blocks. He literally turned them into the building blocks to create grand monuments and weapons for his army. And so all we're left with Mordekaiser is that his armor's currently locked away in the Immortal Bastion, and select few do remember the days of Mordekaiser's tyranny, but most have been forgotten to time. But LeBlanc knows. She is doing her very best, along with her Black Rose Order, secretly to try and keep Mordekaiser from coming back, because nobody knows when, if, or how he will come back, but they know that if he does, there's probably a chance he's not going away this time, and they don't know if they can stop him. And that's, again, kind of where it ends off. Mordekaiser's bio and his lore is really just his origin. He's set up as the biggest threat, or one of the biggest threats, I guess, of Runeterra. We don't really know how or where he's gonna go in his story, because he is just meant to be the villain. And I assume, I should say, not even assume, I think, 100%, I think he's gonna be the boss of the MMO. Where are you going, Caitlyn? Are you really that petty? Really? No Dark Harvest stack for Big Morty, come on now. So we can get into his design now, and he is League of Legends Lich King, or League of Legends Sauron, whichever way you want to go. He is the big, bad, unredeemable, evil warlord. He's got no redeeming qualities at all. His entire motive is, I want to conquer the world because I want to conquer the world. I'm evil, big, beefy, bad guy, head to toe in armor with big, spiky helmet and big weapon. Although I looked up some reference material before this, and Sauron is a lot skinnier than I remember him being. Both physically and even the weapon. He still has the mace, but it's a lot smaller. But the similarities, especially with those two, the big, spiky shoulder pauldrons, the two pillar-like horns, the primarily gray color scheme, it's incredibly obvious that's what Mordekaiser was supposed to be. It's a big step up from his He-Man knockoff Pizza Feet Saturday morning cartoon villain that he was before. Speaking of Saturday morning cartoon villains, I didn't even notice this Tryndamere is... A lot of you fellas put out in the chat that I don't even notice what some of my teammates are typing to me while I'm trying to record. And mostly because I'm kind of focused on the game and commentary, but man, kind of hard not to notice this one when he's the only one typing. The thing is, there's a lot of champions in League that are meant to be just direct knockoffs to tropes, but I always felt like Mordekaiser wasn't as much a direct knockoff as much as he was an homage to that style of character. Because to me, it always felt like they took the best aspects of those characters and just tried to mesh them together. No, Simon, you've ruined everything. Okay, surrender vote coming. There it is. It's always the champions like Tryndamere. Players always have these mentality. I don't know. They're crazy. I always felt like Mord took a lot of aspects from the best of all these different archetypes and also tried to make it its own Runeterran version. It's a lot easier to tell with the concept art in any case, so I'll probably put up a visual of that. The aspects about that I really like with Mordekaiser is the Lich King to me always felt just, it's like Hecarim. You put skulls all over the armor and it's kind of, okay, I get it. You're about death. I really like with Mordekaiser, they tried to implement that by having his armor, at least his chest area, look like a rib cage. I think that was a really clever way to get around the restrictions and censorship for bone imagery. And it just looks really cool. It's just enough without overdoing it. And of course, the banners you see on the back here, it adds a nice bit of color contrast to this normally gray and greenish body, and also is an homage back to him being one of the original founders of Noxus before it was even called Noxus. And his armor as well is very geometric. It looks like a living piece of the Immortal Bastion. And of course, because he is covered in armor head to toe, he doesn't actually have a physical body. He has this spectral visage of his soul leaking through the cracks of the armor, and that's just really badass. I don't know if Thomas, what are you doing? What? Okay. You know what? That's just lore accurate. Back during his second conquest, he did have a bunch of demons like Tabalk and as attack. What the hell's, oh god, I forgot his name. No, I'm a fake LOR fan. I know it's something that sounds like attack, but I can't remember what it is. See, why does it do that? I'm telling you, this thing is bugged. It sends me the opposite direction that I'm actually pointing it. The one thing that has always been a bit more confusing about Mordekaiser, though, has been the fact that he's still green, which ironically, he wasn't green pre-rework, back when he actually was part of the Shadow Isles, and that's kind of the confusing thing. Mordekaiser is not part of the Shadow Isles at all anymore. And I don't know if this is still the case, but for the longest time, he was still listed under Shadow Isles in the Runeterran map. So it's a little silly that they kept him as still being green, even though he's not connected to the Shadow Isles at all. But you also have to realize that they kind of used up most of the quote-unquote evil colors. Shadow Isles is primarily this bluish green, Realm and Fiddlesticks have this spectral blood red, or even purples taken by Belveth and the Void. Even Legend of Runeterra went for this kind of dark bluish, not even dark, they went for this bright bluish. I think because of the similarities to Kindred? Thomas! Oh. Unfortunately for you, my passive still works in there. If I had it my way, I personally still would have gone for the red. I know that's Fiddlesticks and Realm's thing. I think it's just because people mistake him for Shadow Isles so often. If they gave him this red, or you could even have more purplish red, something, I don't know, just more on the red spectrum, even orange, like a fire almost, to have him have that little bit of Titanoxus, even though he isn't Noxian. Doggy. How could you kill your daughter like that, doggy? I know they're not going to do that. They obviously want to go in that blue direction like they did with Legends of Runeterra, which is, goddamn it, Tryndamere. Again, another great time to bring up the Legends of Runeterra design, because that one was quite controversial. Oh my goodness, it's the other arcane character. Oh. 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 Okay, Glass Cannon Mord might not be the best one. I might die very quickly, but goddamn, that bonk is so satisfying. You know what? I can get the dragon in time. I think there's a lot to like about the Legends of Runeterra design, though, as controversial as it may be, and it seems weird that they did it in the first place. Because a lot of people thought, well, Mordekaiser's kind of perfect already. Did he really need any changes? And no, I don't think that he did. It was kind of an unnecessary rework. However, there's a lot of things that I do really like about the Legends of Runeterra design. Wow, Thomas just up and left, I guess. So first off, I want to get out of the way the things that I don't like first, so I can talk more about the things that I do like. I don't like the banners are missing on his back. I think that was such a cool part of his design to add that color contrast. So they kept the color contrast in the end design anyway. I think the helmet looks way too goofy. The horns are made even more exaggerated. There's 4 of them in it for some reason, and the open helmet, I think it just loses all the cool badass fear factor the base design has. With those tiny little slits so you can see his eyes, but now with the open helmet, you can see more of the spectral stuff, but I think there's plenty of other ways to show it off that the actual LOR design does better on other parts of his body. And I think actually the thing I dislike the most about the LOR design is the mace. It looks so unwieldy. It's more like a classic Morningstar, but it's mainly the hilts look so thin that if he swings it, it hits one thing, that whole thing is snapping instantly. Whereas base Mordekaiser's mace looks a lot more bulky and weighty, like it actually can support the weight it's throwing around. However, all the things that I do like about the LOR design, I like that the armor is less smooth and more rigid, makes it look more like actual Noxian armor, even more so than the base design. I like the shoulder spikes sticking out the top instead of on the side. It's a bit closer to Sauron and not as unique like Mordekaiser has, but I think it looks way cooler, makes him look a lot taller and more intimidating. I like that the robes, even though the back banner is missing, they're all tattered and gives that more essence that, oh, this guy's dead. And also just giving him a spectral cape is so cool. That was so sick. Oh, wait, that was actually so awesome. I unintentionally stopped his ult there. I did that fully planned. And the blue, subject to debate. Again, I would probably prefer if it was a deeper red, but the blue, it's closer to Kindred. We've seen the death creatures or death spirits have a closer tie to this bright blue, so I guess having him be blue kind of makes sense. I just think he should have his own color scheme because he kind of perverted the nature of death in a similar way Shadow Isles did, without making it just the same color as Shadow Isles because they're undead. He's kind of just ghosts. I'm trying to say is I like both versions of Mord for different reasons. Even that version of him that we saw in the concept art with human Mordekaiser, the Sanuzal Mord, that'd make a pretty badass skin. It's even closer to Sauron. I like the ones that make it look like he's been doing this well into his middle-aged years, like he's been doing this into his 60s and 70s. I'm not really sure. Oh, I'd like to apologize to Vi and no one else. Again, I'm not entirely sure why they did the LOR design, but I am happy that they did it. The one big thing about Mord, ironically, is actually that he kind of destroyed any chance Viego had of being cool. Well, I mean, Viego is still cool, just not in the way that everyone was hoping for, because for the people who don't know, Ruined King's development started back in like 2018, and Mordekaiser's rework didn't release until 2019. And so what you have is, if you see the concept art for Viego, Viego looks nothing like how he does now in the concept art, because they were planning to do this big, old, armored king. And suddenly Mordekaiser comes about and is like, well, shoot, we already have this giant armored Death King character. We have to make something completely different for Viego. And I think that's why he's so small and spindly and lacking any armor. They tried to make him this polar opposite to Mordekaiser in an attempt to try to balance it out a bit. I'm still kind of sad the actual Ruined King doesn't look as cool as Mordekaiser does, but at least we get a character like that with Mord, right? I'm kind of surprised we're still going. I have a feeling the game's going to end soon. So quickly with gameplay, I do think he is peak thematic fantasy. He's an actual raid boss character, including the stat check part. I feel like if you don't have the stats to beat Mordekaiser, then you're just going to lose. I just kind of wish the one thing that they kept from the old version was him stealing the soul. You guys remember him stealing Dragon Soul? That was so cool. I wish they kept that more, but I think they're trying to impact more of just, yeah, Mordekaiser by himself is a huge threat. And I think they kept that in full. Death Row! I like this new honor system. I can honor everybody on my team except Tryndamere. Thank you for watching this week's Casual Champion Review, everybody, and hopefully I'll see you next week for Mordekaiser, or Morgana. All right, goodbye.